just wanted to prepare you a little bit that this homily kind of starts out and throughout is kind of a bit heavier, maybe a little bit more somber. But I think there are some beautiful truths for all of us to consider through what I feel prompted to kind of share today. So before Christmas, a few weeks before Christmas, I went to go pick something up early one morning at Walgreens nearby. So it was still dark outside, and as I pulled into the parking space, I pulled on that side of Walgreens that faces General de Gaulle, so the canal side. And the parking spot that I chose was right in between the propane tanks and the garbage can on that side of the store. And as I was pulling into that spot, my headlights were on because it was dark. And as I pulled in, they lit up the face of what appeared to me to be one of our local homeless men, sitting on the ground, in between the garbage can, in between the propane tanks. And his eyes were wide open, his nose was running noticeably, and he was shivering because it was cold outside. And before I kind of get to my reaction that morning, I thought it would be helpful, necessary, to share that this is something I struggle with. I struggle with always giving to people who beg outside of stores, who beg on the street corners. I think part of the reason is because we have so many. And it's something that I've been praying with in a particular way since starting here at St. Andrew, because I encounter them so often, right? So often as I go anywhere nearby. And I've come to realize that through prayer and inviting the Lord into that, I've come to realize that a lot of my hesitancy, a lot of my discomfort in those encounters comes from forgetting that I will probably encounter them almost every time I go somewhere nearby. And so I forget that I need to be praying for those encounters. So there's a lot of room for growth in that space and in that space within me, and there's a lot of room for healing in that space within me. And as I was writing that in preparation for today, the Lord helped me to see that this is something that I'm actually really deeply ashamed of. And what he did in that moment, as he was helping me realize that this is something I'm very ashamed of, is he did what he does. He did not add to that shame. He inserted his love. And he offered me, through many tears, some healing in that space of my heart, so that I wouldn't be discouraged by my lack of love, but rather that I would be encouraged to keep on trying to love with him. He was helping me to see also in that moment, because he is so good, he helped me to see how when I do give ungrudgingly, when I simply express kindness, offer some sort of blessing, maybe a prayer, he blesses those encounters in profound ways. But this particular encounter that morning before Christmas, in a way that I can only attribute to his grace, instantly pierced through my heart. It instantly pierced through any selfishness I might ordinarily struggle with, any negative judgment that I might ordinarily struggle with in those moments. I instantly, when I saw the face of this man, I instantly wanted to be kind to him. I instantly wanted to help in some way. I wanted to give him money. I wanted to give him something. I wanted to do something for him. And as I reflected on that, the Lord was helping me see that in him, in this man, shivering there in the cold, in the state that he was in, I saw myself. And I saw a very familiar scenario that I have been in time and time again. Just a person in pain. Someone in pain who could really benefit from the kindness of another person. And in that moment, the Lord blessed me. He blessed this man with giving me and him the gift of allowing me to be that person for him in that moment. Just to express some sort of kindness. So I think the question that might come up is, why did this particular memory, this particular story come up in connection with the feast that we celebrate today, the Feast of the Baptism of the Lord? I think there are a few reasons. And one of the reasons is that through this act, Jesus approaching John the Baptist to be baptized, the place they are baptizing, the Jordan River, what happens after Jesus is baptized, the heavens opening, all of that. One of the reasons that memory of this encounter with this man came to mind is partly because of what all of that is pointing to, what all of that is reminding us of. So to set the stage a little bit, when this happens, when the story that we just heard in the Gospels takes place, some first century Jews, many first century Jews, they were actively waiting for the Messiah. And they were actively preparing for the Messiah. This is what those who went to see John the Baptist, many of the ones who went to see John the Baptist, this is what they were doing, actively preparing for the coming of the Messiah by receiving the baptism that John was offering, acknowledging and repenting of their sins. In addition to that, there was this expectation among some of those first century Jews that when the Messiah came, he would usher in a new Exodus that would have similarities with the old Exodus but would be new. So just a reminder, the old Exodus ended as the Israelites, after 400 years of slavery, 40 years of wandering in the desert, they crossed the Jordan River into the Promised Land. Jesus, as he ushers in the new Exodus, is baptized in the same Jordan River. And in this beautiful moment of theophany, this visible, tangible manifestation of God, the new Promised Land gets revealed. The heavens are opened. And not only are the heavens opened, the Holy Spirit comes descending in the form of a dove upon Jesus. And in there's this invitation to see an echo, a pointing back to the time of the flood, when a dove comes and brings an olive branch to Noah. And for Noah, this is a sign that creation has been restored. A new creation comes in after that flood, which was sent to cleanse the world of sin. And it came through a lot of death. Jesus, he himself will usher in this new creation through death, his own death, that he freely chooses to undergo, not only for the forgiveness of sins. And forgiveness of sins is the beginning, but also very importantly, very beautifully, that we might believe that his desire is that he be able to live out what we heard in that first reading in each one of us, in each one of our lives, every single day. So the words that we heard today, they're very similar to the words that Jesus speaks, that he reads from the book of the prophet Isaiah in Luke's Gospel. In Luke's Gospel, we hear from Jesus reading from Isaiah chapter 61. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring glad tidings to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free. In today's version, we heard from Isaiah chapter 42. Here is my servant whom I uphold, my chosen one with whom I am pleased, upon whom I have put my spirit. A bruised reed he shall not break, and a smoldering wick he shall not quench. So those are metaphors. Those are metaphors, images of people who are hurting, people whose fire, whose light is in danger of being snuffed out by the world in some way. And the Lord goes on through the prophet Isaiah. He says that servant, my servant, will be a light for the nations, to open the eyes of the blind, to bring out prisoners from confinement, and from the dungeon those who live in darkness, In the darkness of that morning before Christmas, as I pulled into that parking space and my headlights lit up the face of my brother in the human family, the Lord was inviting me to share in his ministry to those who live in darkness, to those who have found themselves in darkness. Not just physical darkness, but that spiritual darkness that's caused by our own sins, or that may be caused by the sins of others committed against us. All of that can lead to a very dark place. If you've never been in that darkness in some way yourself, then it is possible, and there's no judgment here, but it's possible that maybe your heart wouldn't have been moved like my heart was in that encounter that morning. But I think because I have been there on more than one occasion, and I freely admit that my heart still has a lot of room to grow in those encounters, the invitation there, in addition to seeing Jesus in each and every person, believing that he really does show no partiality, as we heard in that second reading, meaning everyone is invited into this relationship with him that can lead to that new promised land that is heaven. In addition to all that, there's always an invitation from the Lord to see in others a little bit of ourselves. Every person that we encounter. And I think I share all that today because it's really these things. It's my experience of allowing the Lord to speak to me about these realities in my own heart, my own life, to see the softening of my heart in the midst of all this. To see that happening within me. Seeing his love get pulled out of me in difficult situations with difficult people. That is what gives me hope. That is what gives me hope in the midst of the craziness that is our world, which only seems to be getting crazier every single day. And I think the truth to remember in light of all of that, in the midst of all of that, is twofold. It's that my own sins and the sins of others affect each of us in some way. That's how all of this works. I think the internet helps bring that reality more into our minds. We are all connected. The beautiful truth is that the opposite is true. Right? That our sins can affect us, each and every one of us. The beautiful truth is that the opposite is also true. And it's the opposite, leaning into the opposite, that will help you and I not to give up if that darkness seems to continue to grow. So the invitation there in the midst of all that is simple. Be the light. Be the light in the darkness. In order to do that, we cannot be afraid to let the light in, to let the Lord in, to let Jesus into our hearts more and more. He does not come to shame. He comes to heal. He comes to encourage. He is God from God. He is light from light. We confess that every Sunday. And right now we need more of his light in our lives, not less. He came to shine the light of his love into the darkness of our sin, into the darkness of our pain, to free us from bondage, to set us free, so that we can joyfully continue his ministry of bringing the light of his love to every single person we encounter. Do not let the darkness discourage you. Do not let the darkness confuse you. Ask the Lord to show you that the face of every person you encounter reveals to you a brother, a sister, who needs the light of his love just as much as you do. Be the light of his love for them, with him.